Why is anime good? I've been asked this question many times over the years, from friends back in school who didn't watch anime to friends on the internet now who don't watch anime. I can understand why it would make you curious. For someone to be so heavily invested in the genre, like, what is so good about it? What's so good about anime over, say, just TV, regular TV, or film, or books, or whatever? And I've been thinking about this for quite a while. See, a little while ago, I basically rewatched Ava, and I had this revelation. I was like, I rewatched Ava. I was like, why am I wasting my time watching all this seasonal shit that's just garbage, when I should only watch good things with good in-depth, like, by good things, my idea of good was like in-depth story, character development, like flawed characters who like go through tough times, like drama, like a serious drama, basically a serious drama with deep themes and all that shit, all that good shit that you get out of Ava. And I was like, I should only watch anime like this. There's no point watching all this fucking seasonal cute girls bullshit anymore. Fuck that. It's just rotting my brain. I need to only watch good drama shows. So I went back and I started watching Ashton no Joe, which was like generally regarded as the first good drama, long form drama anime, like sports shonen, kind of set the stage for all of that to come before Dragon Ball like really cemented the genre. I went back and I started watching Legend of the Galactic Heroes, a bunch of shit like this, and after watching some of this, I was like, why am I even watching anime? If all I want is good, like, really clever stories, like, deep characters, incredibly well written, why limit myself to anime when literature has been around for the hundreds and hundreds of years, and I'm sure there are many books that are even better than the stories that you get in anime, even the best anime. So then I went and read, see if I have it anywhere. No, don't have it anywhere. A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius by Dave Eggers. I read Catcher in the Rye, and after reading these books, I was like, those were fucking good books, but it's not hitting the same notes as, like, I still felt the desire to go back and watch Yu Yushiki, right? This cute girls anime about girls with pink hair fucking around in a school, right? I was like, why? What is the reason that anime is so appealing to me, even after reading these stories that, from the supposedly objective standpoint, are, like, far superior? And that got me thinking, and so I'm going to try and answer that question now. So I'm going to compare anime and regular TV for now. There's plenty of great stories in regular TV. A lot of people say that we're living in a golden age of TV right now. You've got like Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad. These are often the ones that are brought up. Lost, and mostly the one that people say started it all. This whole new genre of like amazing drama, long-running, plot-centric TV shows with like a consistent overarching plot was The Wire, which came out, I believe, in 2002. Now, anime's just been doing it for longer. This is why this stuff doesn't seem that mind-blowing to me, because that's the standard for anime. Ava came out in the 90s, Lane came out in 1998, right? All of this shit has been going on for way before. I mean, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which many people compare to Game of Thrones, started in 1982. Decades before Game of Thrones came out, decades before The Wire, decades before Lost. This shit is just the standard. There's no room for anime that don't have a plot, an overarching, like, there's plenty of episodic shows in anime, and there's plenty of episodic TV shows that came out before The Wire, before the current boom in high quality TV shows. For example, my personal favourite TV show of all time is Star Trek Next Generation, which came out in the 90s. But still, you've had big sci-fi stories in anime way before this. Gundam, for example, was the obvious example. Gundam, for example, is the obvious example. So, really, Western TV is just kind of catching up to where anime has been for decades in terms of story, in terms of drama. Like, that's the standard. You don't find the anime that don't have this, that are like shit. Like, there's plenty of bad anime, don't get me wrong, but the standard for things that last through the years is just higher than what it is in Western TV, I guess. Now, I guess you could argue that Legend of the Galactic Heroes came out not on traditional TV, it was on like DVDs sold with the book, so I don't really know exactly how it was sold. But then HBO isn't really the same as normal TV either, is it? It's like a separate thing. It's not just the same place where you find all the rest of TV. So I don't really think that's a good argument. And again, it still exists. Now, film has been doing this for much longer, and obviously books have been doing it for much longer, plays, all that shit. But I'm comparing TV shows. Anime's just been ahead of the West for so long, in fact, that anime's been so good at doing plot for so long that anime fans literally got bored of the idea of having a plot for a while in the 2000s. They were just like, that's old shit, we don't need a plot, let's just purely focus down on characters. And that's what happened in the 2000s. And you know, imagine how oversaturated your genre has to be with good stories for the general audience to get bored of the idea of plot itself. That's pretty mind-blowing to me, at least. What else is appealing about anime? Well, something that is not often brought up, but is in my opinion very important, is something very basic. Just the anime looks good. The art style of anime drawings is appealing to me. I like the way it looks much more than I like the way that, like, okay, a lot of TV shows, maybe less so in the sort of genre that I was talking about before, of like the massive dramas that kind of shot more like a cinematic style, but a lot of TV shows are shot with really flat lighting and flat directing because the TV is quite small and you're expected to be like doing other things while the TV's on. You're supposed to be able to look over at the TV and fully understand what's going on. So the directing and lighting generally quite flat, especially prevalent in sitcoms, but that's just the general style of TV. Whereas anime doesn't have this. Since most anime airs late at night, you're expected to be staying up and watching the anime, right? If you're staying up till 1 a.m. to catch your show that you want to watch, it's because you want to watch the show. You're not going to be focused on anything else. So anime directing can become a much more, avant-garde, stylized kind of thing. I mean, you only have to look at Akiyuki Shinbo as an example, or fucking. The guy who did Devilman Crybaby and Ping Pong, Masaaki Yuasa. You know, there's all these crazy avant-garde TV anime directors. You don't get avant-garde TV directors in the rest of the world. That sort of thing just doesn't really exist. I mean, unless you count, like, there's a few. Twin Peaks, David Lynch, for example. But David Lynch isn't known for Twin Peaks. Well, he is. But he's a movie director who went to TV. And also, Twin Peaks is shot in a very TV style. That's kind of part of the show, is that it's... Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked by Twin Peaks, but the lighting and directing in Twin Peaks is generally for like... this is a complete digression from my point. I could need to stop talking about Twin Peaks. So yeah, that's another appeal of anime, is that there's just such more interesting directing going in, like that is more generalized, rather than Western TV shows, which are, or other mediums. I mean, the film is great. I love film. I'm not dissing other mediums. TV is great as well. There's plenty of great TV shows, plenty of bad anime. I'm just saying what appeals about anime specifically to me. There's plenty of great directing in films, of course, right? But a film is like, longest films are like 3 hours. A short anime series is longer than that, which just gives you physically more time to develop characters. Another thing that appeals to me about anime is something that is often overlooked as something that's like kind of base level and not something that's representative of what how people want the genre to be seen. But to me, it's something that's just as important, which is there's a focus on making characters endearing and cute, right? The whole idea of cute girls, it really exists heavily in anime in a way that doesn't exist in most other genres. And if it does exist in other genres, it's they're real women. If you objectify women in real life, that's a very different thing from a drawing, right? So like, whereas something might come off as just fucking weird and creepy and exploitative in a live action setting, it can be good fan service in an anime setting. And this isn't to say that TV doesn't have fan service. A lot of people seem to pretend that, but Game of Thrones, full of sex and violence, like the same as any other anime. Game of Thrones is super anime-y. I haven't seen it myself, but from what I've heard, right, like that lady with the dragons, that just sounds like something straight out of a fucking anime to me. Like, I don't understand the separation here. But yeah, writing a cute girl isn't easy. It's very, if the girls in your show are cute, right, they're appealing, endearing, that's literally, you have to do everything right. You have to have good character design, first of all. That's like the base level, which is already like takes a lot of talent. Then they have to be animated well, because if their movements don't match up to how their personality, like a good character their movement should reflect their personality on the inside. So good animation is very important to making a character endearing. And then the writing has to be on point. You can have a girl whose character design is cute and is animated well, but they're just written terribly. For example, okay, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but Zero Two from Darling in the Franxx is an example of this. A girl whose character design is very well done, whose animation is generally well done, except for the parts where it isn't, and but then the writing is just terrible and it just makes her completely unappealing. So you have to to make a good, like, an endearing character in an anime, aka a cute girl, moe, right? You have to nail all of these things, which are the things that, like, every single part of the process has to be good. And then you have to make everyone around them interact, like, they have to do the interactions well. It's a test, really. If a show can pull off cute girls properly, chances are it's a good show. If it's a bad show, it's very simple, the girls won't be cute. That's literally the definition of what the show is aiming for, and it's a good way to test if it's doing all these things right. There's a few other things that, at least to me, appeal about anime. I mean, to a lot of other people, the main appeal of anime is shonen, right? Like the sort of massive arcs that you don't get in Western TV shows. Even the most complex ones don't have the same thing as a shonen, where it's just like a straight line from the bottom to the top, right, of a character's journey. You don't get that in most Western TV shows. Personally, I'm not super into shonen, but that's a big appeal for a lot of people. Like, I mean, Dragon Ball is one of the most successful shows of all time. One Piece is also an example. My camera stopped recording automatically. I wish you could turn that shit off. Also, for a lot of people, one of the appeals of anime is the medium of animation, right? Like, if you're passionate about animation, but you don't want to watch stuff that's made for literal children, you don't have many other places to go aside from anime. Personally, I don't really care about the medium so much as a whole, but a lot of people are really passionate about animation, but you can only watch, like, the same Disney films over and over again so many times. If you want new content, new animation aimed at adults that isn't aimed at children, there's now, in the West, there's a few, like BoJack Horseman, Archer, whatever. But for a long time, anime was the only place to go. And also, personally, I think the animation in Archer looks horrible, and BoJack Horseman's a fucking great show, I'm not going to deny that. But it's an exception, not the rule. So that, you know, there's a lot of reasons why anime itself is appealing to different people. Although, like, those last two don't particularly apply to me, but they apply to a lot of people who are fans of anime. And the other big thing which does apply to me, and I think applies to most anime fans, is the community is heavily based in, like, a sort of databasing and catalogue. This is kind of why I think a lot of autistic people are into anime, because the fan base is really set on watch as much anime as possible, catalogue it, understand the directors, the voice actors, every single part. Oh god, what's happening to my voice? Like, it's a sort of, there's a sort of culture of databasing, right? I mean, My Anime List is the perfect example of this. Like, you sort of, it's great for conversations on the internet. I could meet someone completely new on the internet, and suddenly, if I see that they have, like, I don't know, an anime in their profile picture or something, I can be like, hey, I've seen that show, it's pretty great. And suddenly, bam, we got a connection, right? And we can talk back and forth, because it's part of the culture to have a knowledge of how things are related to each other, the sort of interconnectedness of the industry. Like, you can talk about TV shows with someone. I would kind of compare it to sports in the West, like, where you can instantly talk. I don't know about how it is in America, but in the UK, and, like, my dad could go up to someone who was wearing a TV, like a football team shirt, and instantly they can have a conversation about the football, right? It's the same thing. But you know, TV. If I go up to someone who I see, I don't know, wearing a shirt of a TV show I like, I don't fucking know, but BoJack Horseman, I would use an example. Say I talk about BoJack Horseman with them, I'm like, hey, you like that thing? I also like that thing. And then where do we go from there? You can talk about that show, but there's no sort of databasing of every show like there is in anime. Whereas if I see someone wearing an Evangelion shirt or something, I say, hey, you like Evangelion? Chances are they also know who Hideaki Anno is, right? He's, like, the most famous anime director of all time. So chances are I can go up to them and be like, hey, you like Evangelion? And then we can bounce off of that show to like Karekano, or bounce off of that to even Shin Godzilla, the new film, his Godzilla film. Then you can bounce off that to Tokusatsu. Then you can bounce off that, you know, there's just, everyone has this sort of knowledge of the entire industry in a sort of more pulled back light than they do in the West. Similar to how film buffs are with film. I have a friend who's got an absolutely encyclopedic knowledge of film. He's a fucking genius, and he could do this for years with other people who understand film. Like, he can just bounce off directors, actors, cast members, like boom, 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 and then they'll just talk about 50 films. It's crazy to watch. But that's sort of the attitude that most of the anime community has, because there's a sort of, most people aren't like half into it. Most people you're either like really normie, like you've seen One Punch Man, or like you're full on, yeah, I've seen every anime ever, you know? Which is part of it. You can't, like, the community, especially in the internet age, is a big important part of like any medium that you get into. So yeah, that's another big appeal of anime to me. So I think I've made my points in this video, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed watching. Please remember to don't like, don't comment, don't subscribe, because I genuinely do not care if anyone does those things. So goodbye.